When I'm prowling around inside my local secondhand video game selling establishment looking for something weird that I've never seen before, I'll generally stick to the beautiful and rarely disappointing PlayStation 2, GameCube, and OG Xbox section. There's a certain vibe that era of games gives off, and discovering some weirdo title that I missed when I lived through the era as a kid is one of my favorite pastimes. But every now and then, that weirdo vibe can seep into the generation of games that came after it. Oh, the Wii. Oh boy, the Wii. What a console it was. Innovative, revolutionary, the future of games. All of this was said about the Wii. And well, it seems as though motion controls have come and gone. Aside from VR and Switch's honestly rarely used Joy-Cons, motion controls have almost lost all of their popularity. It used to feel like it might be the future of gaming. Nintendo slapped motion controls on some of their biggest franchises, and Xbox and PlayStation even threw their hats into the ring. I never really loved motion controls. I thought that they were neat at first, but I remember growing out of them rather quickly. So after a while, I developed a very dismissive attitude towards any game that had motion controls in it. And because of this, I've missed out on a few solid games I would have otherwise loved if it weren't for the controls. The Wii does actually have some gems, like Muramasa the Demon Blade, and it's home to one of my favorite franchises of all time, No More Heroes. It has some strange and weird titles, the kind of weird I love to discover, that PS2-esque weird. There's one Wii exclusive that really puts together a goofy, surreal, and weird as hell vibe, and that's platinumgames' first ever project, Madworld.
No time to waste, I'm on a death watch. Wiping out the enemy is the next stop. 10K bounty, thoughts not cloudy. Chainsaw, make your brains roll, don't doubt me. Put your life on the line to survive. This game of death, you must thrive. Stay clear, cause the world is mine, and the right fist backs every word of my lines.
This is it. Platinum Studios' first game ever, the first idea, their debut, and it's pretty alright. It's okay. It's fine. There's a lot to love here, and there's a lot that I do love. This game's aesthetic, first off, has my name written all over it. I was 14 when this game came out, and I would have adored every second of it if it didn't have motion controls. But hey, now I'm older, and I'm much more patient, and a post-mortem look at the Wii's motion controls is now kind of interesting, and it feels like a novelty again after so many years. So what is Madworld? Well, first off, it's a game by the guys who would go on to make Bayonetta, the dudes who did Revengeance, and the greatest single-player third-person shooter of all time, Vanquish. I dig this company, and I mean, of course I do. It's basically Clover Studio revived. I've loved the work of these game industry titans even before they formed Platinum. Mikami, Kamiya, Inaba, and so many others. These dudes make games that appeal so strongly to my subjective tastes. And Madworld definitely still shoots for a similar vibe to the one that they created as Clover. It feels like they picked up right where they left off. Madworld fits perfectly right next to Beautiful Joe and God Hand, and honestly, it really shares a lot of similarities to the latter. It's directed by Shigenori Nishikawa. I hope I pronounced that right. There's not that much information floating around about him online, or at least not that much that I could find, but he does seem to be Mikami's buddy. His IMDb shows that he worked on a lot of stuff with the dude well before even the Clover Studio days, and he would later leave Platinum with Mikami to help him work on Evil Within. Madworld is the first game Nishikawa ever directed, and the last one too. And I think he did a pretty good job here. He really helped bring to life the style and tone Platinum wanted to create. It was also produced by Atsushi Inaba, who I'm sure had his hands all over this project, as it's very similar to the other types of games he likes to work on. Okay, so the art style in Madworld is the first thing anyone would notice about it. And it's my favorite aspect of the game, easily. I think it looks fucking great. The all black and white cel-shaded look works so well for the world it's trying to create, and the emphasis it puts on the violence when everything is black and white except for the bright red color of the blood. It looks cool, cartoony, completely over the top, and brutal as hell. Madworld's aesthetic is one of the best I've ever seen. Truly. Seriously, I adore the way this game looks. The main character's design even. This dude is fantastic. They said when making the main character of Jack here, they wanted someone to look tough and worn down by the world, as opposed to a traditional hero look. And I love that. He's a big-ass buff dude with a sick leather jacket, a robot chainsaw arm, and smokes a constant, never-ending cigarette. Hell yeah, that's a main character design that I can get behind. This is like the design you would see on like an anti-hero or some other minor role. Instead, Jack is here, front and center, ready to rip people apart like the absolute killer he is. Goofy and over the top is the name of the game here in Madworld, and even the main character's aesthetic contributes to its overall sense of extreme silliness.
Bigger don't mean better.
So, Platinum wanted violence to be the main theme of the game, and yeah, they succeeded. This game is ridiculously violent. Blood is plentiful, and there are so many different ways you can spill it. The whole story even revolves around it. So in Madworld, there's this killing game called Deathwatch. This is definitely inspired by stories like Battle Royale, Death Race, and Running Man. It's where people compete in a deadly game show-like thing for the entertainment of spectators. The participants try to gain points by killing each other, and so on and so forth. I dig story setups like this. Simple but interesting, and it can be expanded upon. It can set up good moments for really fun characters and cool action. The whole dystopian, corrupt, killing game show thing isn't original. It's been done a bunch of times, but it's still a premise that I really enjoy personally. And it's not completely oversaturated, so the more the merrier. But, well, you know, a lot of Madworld isn't necessarily original. They even admit that the black and white with splashes of red was inspired by Frank Miller's Sin City. It's even hard to not compare Madworld to other Clover Studio projects like God Hand. When I see stuff like this, how could I not point out the similarities? The main character, Jack, is one giant anti-hero cliche. Robot arms, punk-style dystopias, Frankenstein. A lot of Madworld's elements are borrowed from other stuff. But I think because of the over-the-top satirical vibe of the whole game, it kind of works.
That all men are created equal is a myth. The people are nothing but weeds. They're overlords, gardeners. Only when the weeds are cut may flowers bloom.
From all the fertilizer you're spreading, I'm guessing you're a gardener.
The story actually isn't half bad. It's more focused than God Hand, the previous game made by the Clover Studios crew. Where God Hand felt so silly it was impossible to take anything seriously, Madworld seems to try to use its silliness to kind of make a point.
Tell me what you feel, Jack, in your bones.
It's the blood and circuses all over again, that's all. Gladiators against gladiators, and a crowd eager to see guts spill on the sand. You think there's more to it than that?
Alright, so there's this virus that got dropped into a city by a terrorist organization. They tell the citizens that the virus will kill them in less than a day, but anyone who kills someone else will get an antidote. This city then becomes the new place for the Deathwatch games.
Greetings, Score Sport fans! It's a beautiful evening on Jefferson Island, just perfect weather for our unwilling contestants to compete in the Varigan City Deathwatch. My name is Howard Buckshot Holmes, and along with my co-commentator, Chris Creeley, I'll be giving you a slay-by-slay account of tonight's bloodbath.
You play as Jack, a badass dude on a mission to save the mayor's daughter. Jack participates in the games and is extremely good at them. Jack doesn't just do what he needs to get to the president's daughter, he actually plays the games. He kills thousands of dudes, all for his mission. And he seems to have a lot of fun doing it, honestly. I mean, you don't have a slugfest on people's heads with a nail baseball bat unless you really love it. Later, it's revealed that the mayor's daughter isn't actually in danger, and she's enjoying watching the Deathwatch games. Jack then continues on playing the games with his own motivations in mind. It's then revealed later that Jack was the previous winner of the old Deathwatch games, and he's now back to burn the whole thing to the ground.
Then why are you here, Jack?
To burn this game to the ground.
Alright, the vibe of the game seems to really want to play off of how we enjoy violent media.
As I've said before, these games are always held when conflict must be settled with blood. Yet now, even though there is no pressing need, the people's demand for the games is higher than it's ever been. They thirst.
You know, 13, I like this whole purpose thing of yours. It's very zen.
Madworld takes violence, ramps it up to preposterously unrealistic proportions, and makes a literal game out of it. What we do as players kinda parallels what's happening in the game. And well, I even have to admit, the motion controls kinda add to this as well. The Wii is a very light-hearted console. Even the idea of waggling a Wiimote around seems silly and harmless, but to put the goofy motions of using the Wiimote and then have them make you kill people kinda creates this cool contrast. And it's contextualized within the story. Violence is brutal and terrible, but the Death Watch makes an almost lighthearted, goofy game of it. Kinda like the actual video game Madworld.
Jack just set a record in the long distance for airborne hand, previously held by Japanese artists and blowjob experts, the veteran basefuckers.
It seems to want to ask the question, why do we enjoy violent media so much? I mean, why do I? I really do love violence in movies and video games. I love it in Madworld. It's one of the main reasons I like this game. I don't know. I think for me, it's because there's art to violence. There's a beauty in the way martial arts look when performed by two fighting masters. It's just fun to watch or imagine someone putting their skills to the test against a worthy opponent to see how far their drive and determination will take the character. And when it's a violent competition, then the stakes are higher and it's more exciting for me as a viewer.
See, if you can't keep up, you might want to adjust your motherfucking tempo. I ain't talking too fast, you just listening too motherfucking slow. I'm so...
I think it's perfectly healthy to enjoy violence in stories, honestly, no matter how brutal, but it doesn't mean I completely understand why I enjoy it so much. Like what I just said really doesn't explain why over-the-top blood or extreme gore is fun to watch for me. I don't know, I mean, I guess sometimes it comes down to I just like some stuff that makes me go, oh shit, that was fucked. I don't know, it's an interesting question, though not necessarily an original one. Battle Royale, Running Man, and other similar style premises all kind of try to ask the same question and touch on the same topic. Some more eloquently than others. Madworld, I don't know, it does an okay job of it. It's not particularly profound or groundbreaking, but Yasumi Matsuno, the guy who wrote it, was trying to say something, and I can definitely respect that.
Drugs, women, but the game. Jack, the game. It was the best, Jack.
Ah, so that's why you were there. Just had to be in the thick of it, didn't you? Wanted to feel it on your skin.
The game is ridiculous, and its sense of absurdity is truly brought to life by its stellar voice cast.
Jack, be careful.
Amala, I have a chainsaw on my arm. I'll be fine.
Yeah, Jack here is voiced by Steve Blum, the dude who did Spike from Cowboy Bebop and freaking Tom from Toonami.
I love this job.
Yeah, and one of the announcers for the Death Watch is fucking Bender, John DiMaggio.
So basically, Jack is ramming himself against himself. We are watching the most violent masturbation ever.
Every other voice in this game as well is so great, like Agent 13's voice here by Jim Ward.
It's good to know some things don't change. Welcome back, Jack.
It's good to be home.
The voice cast really brings the silly intensity needed to sell the whole world and vibe. I genuinely think the tone wouldn't have worked as well if I wasn't hearing Bender say explicitly goofy jokes in my ear the whole time.
Fucking vagina. In my day, we didn't have maps. We had to find the bloodbath challenge using our natural hunting ability. You did too have maps in your day. You just lost yours and had to ask directions from the other contestants. Yeah, but let me tell you, it ain't easy to get directions from a guy who you're feeding a signpost to.
The fact that the commentators chime in as frequently as they do really sells the whole game show feel. And though the jokes are pretty hit or miss, well, I don't know, mostly miss, there's still some that made me laugh. The jokes that fall flat don't bother me as much though. as the presence of them still services the game by helping to create its unique atmosphere. Speaking of helping create unique atmosphere, how could I not talk about the music in this game?
Body that, we gon' body that. Body that, we gon' body that. Yeah, body that, we gon' body that. Yeah, body that.
Wow. These tracks are silly as hell. Very hip-hop inspired soundtrack. And I don't know, I think it works.
You see my swag, now you wanna come and give me all this drag. I think you better back, because my hand is itching to give you a smack.
It was composed by Platinum's in-house composer Naoto Tanaka, another OG Capcom guy who is a Clover Studio dude that came over to Platinum with everyone. Some local artists also worked on the soundtrack, and their names were Ox, Sick YG, Bandy Legs, and Doaja Raze. They sound like cool dudes. Tanaka wanted to make a soundtrack that had a Western style, and at the request of Inaba, he made it hip-hop and rock. The lyrics for the songs are even contextual for the actual game.
Heavy and cold, if you want we can end it with the quickness. You're already infected with the sickness. You can't take no more, you don't want the brain matter and the blood to make you shake no more. Come on Jack, I know you're better than that. I know where you keep your enemies at, but that won't work in my world, it's a bad world this is. So take it.
Now, I can't honestly say I love these songs. As far as listening to them on their own goes, that's pretty unlikely for me. Most of the songs are insanely repetitive and, I don't know, pretty bland. But, that being said, I think that they service the tone of the game excellently. These songs are right at home in Madworld, and they're just jumpy enough and catchy enough for me to enjoy them whilst I'm ripping people apart in a point-based killing game.
Lord help me save my soul. I'm trying not to lose control. I'm trying not to lose control. But I might have to let go.
And I guess now's a good time to talk about Madworld's actual gameplay. Man, well honestly, even though I do feel motion controls themselves and even the family-friendly platform it's on lends itself to the themes of the game, their actual implementation is pretty unenjoyable for me. It's subjective, of course, but I really don't think motion controls add anything to the game other than that thematic relevance. And let's be honest, it's kind of a stretch anyways. The gameplay is very simple and very easy because of it, which makes the game not very exciting. I'm someone who plays fighting games. I love character action games, beat-em-ups, hack and slashers, and even shooters. I like action games. For these types of games to be enjoyable to me, there needs to be some sort of way to improve or get better. I like there to be an element of skill, and to do this I would prefer to use a control scheme that has some sort of precision. Wiimote and Nunchuck can't really provide what I'm looking for. And Platinum knew this too, and because of that, Madworld's gameplay is pretty mindless. It needs to be easy and simple to accommodate its unprecise control scheme. But does that mean it's not fun at all? No, Madworld's it's kind of fun, a little bit. It's funny to experiment with the multiple different ways you can kill people. There's a lot of them. The roller pin thing, the shaking up soda cans, burning people alive, catapulting them to the moon, and of course slicing them apart with your chainsaw arm. There are even some fun weapons to use, like this golf club and these dual wield blades. It's just that the controls to actually use that stuff are pretty simple, and the best parts of it are just the animations. The game does incentivize you to use different tools to slaughter the other combatants through its score system. You get points by killing people in different ways, like the classic put a tire around them, then stab them through the head with a stop sign, and finally throw them to a wall of spikes. The objective of every level is to get enough points to move on to the next area or unlock certain things like weapon or health items, or bloodbath challenges that give even more points. Basically, just keep killing till you get enough points to unlock the boss challenge. And the boss fights can be pretty cool.
Take your best shot, boy.
They're more just interesting set pieces you activate by waggling your controller rather than actual boss fights, but it's still kind of fun. It's cool to watch the unique power struggles Jack has against the bosses. Some of the best and most hilariously brutal parts of the game come from these boss power struggle animations. The way Madworld sets up the whole gameplay around the Deathwatch game is pretty cool and further helps create its unique tone. I just kind of wish the game wasn't based around motion controls. There are some parts that kind of work, like chopping people with the chainsaw by holding B and swinging the Wiimote either vertically or horizontally. That works kind of well. And honestly, the power struggles were fun at first. Waggling the Wiimote and the nunchuck to win a QTE is fine and can be funny and intense, but it just kind of gets old after a couple hours for me. One thing that's really rough is the dodging is done by flicking the nunchuck. This feels super unintuitive and is not very responsive at all. I honestly opted out to face tank everything in the game and just chopped away and hoped for the best. It definitely worked because this game isn't very hard. I don't know, would Madworld be better if it didn't have motion controls? Well, as it stands, I don't know, probably not. The game is built from the ground up to have them incorporated. The combat just feels a little clunky, but it's still serviceable, and I wouldn't call it bad, not at all. But mainly, like I said before, I think the fact that Madworld is even on the Wii, the fact that it uses a control scheme that's meant for kids and families, is kinda all a part of its vibe. It might be a stretch, like I said, but I think it's basically a thematic element. It tries to make killing as fun as possible through goofy motion controls, like how Death Watch makes killing fun through a goofy game show setting. That's the point, I think. Whatever its purpose is, we can definitely agree on one thing. Madworld definitely stands out because of its violent content. It is absolutely a unique title for the Wii. It's a visually stunning and extremely aesthetically pleasing game to me. It's drenched in style, and I adore it, from its color scheme to cel-shaded graphics and character designs to its over-the-top use of blood and violence. This game looks great, and I wish it played as well as it looked. Like I said, the motion controls belong here, because the game was built for them. But I can't help but think how amazing a game would be if it took this concept and had God Hands combat. Or hell, just anything a little bit more skill-based. As a whole package, though, I think Madworld delivers a good experience. Serviceable combat, cliched but fun and goofy story, and a fantastic art direction. I would consider this game good. And oh, it's most definitely weird, the good kind of weird I love. And well, I can also say, it has been somewhat unjustly forgotten. But hey, it's a unique game, and honestly, it's a pretty good start for a company that wanted to set itself apart from its contemporaries.